I've made some pretty bad mistakes as a natural lifter over the years. And I'm not talking about the time I bought BCAAs, although yeah, that too. I'm actually talking about the stuff that I did that stalled my gains for weeks and possibly even months. And what I do now to keep building muscle while staying lean, injury-free, and excited to train. So in this video, I'm gonna take you through the 3 biggest mistakes I've made as a natural lifter and what you can do to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes. The first and biggest mistake that I made in hindsight is I believe that there are must-do exercises. For years, I followed the religion of the so-called Big 6. Barbell squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, row, and pull-ups. I treated these like the holy commandments of lifting. Thou shalt barbell bench. Thou shalt back squat till thy spine taps out. But the truth is that these lifts aren't sacred. They're just old. As far as I can tell, these basic barbell lifts have stood the test of time for 2 main reasons. Firstly, they are really good for building a base of muscle strength and coordination for brand new lifters. If you can barbell squat, barbell overhead press, deadlift, row, bench, you're definitely strong enough and coordinated enough to do any machine in the gym. And because they're simple to set up. All you need is a bar, plates, a rack, and a bench. But these factors don't make these lifts magical or inherently better than other exercises. They just make them suitable for lifting in a 1970s garage. The so-called Big 6 barbell exercises have been around for a century. We have made technological progress in terms of lifting equipment since then. So I probably would recommend these exercises for your first 6 months to a year of lifting. But that doesn't mean they're inherently better than other exercises. You could be really suitable to certain barbell lifts, but not suitable at all to others. So take me as an example. I'm relatively tall with very long arms and relatively short legs, while having the longest torso you'll ever see. My body proportions look like I was designed when God lost the instruction manual on how to do human beings. I look more like a chimpanzee than a Homo sapien. What does this mean in terms of leverages for the barbell lifts? For deadlifts, I'm pretty good. I'm quite well suited to them. For back squats, because of my extremely long torso, I do need to tip over quite a bit, which tends to bias my lower back and my glutes, which is not inherently bad. It just does mean that a barbell squat is a suboptimal exercise for my leverages in terms of building my quads. And in terms of presses, overhead presses, and bench presses, my extremely long arms don't really help me there. So what did I do? I swapped out the exercises that weren't serving me anymore. I used machines, dumbbells, cables, and yes, even the Smith machine. And here's the kicker. Once I put aside the false assumption that the barbell lifts are just optimal for building as much muscle as possible, bruh, and I started to experiment with exercises that suited my leverages a little bit better, my gains started to improve, I started to get stronger again, and my joints thanked me. So if you're tired of grinding your way through barbell exercises that have always just felt a little bit off, you won't earn any sort of badge of honor by sticking to them. There's nothing special about any one exercise. It's kind of just how an exercise feels for you. And getting strong at any exercise that uses a full range of motion and progressive overload will mean that you grow the target muscle. And by the way, guys, before we get into the second biggest mistake I've made as a natural lifter, if you are looking to lose fat at the moment, you can download my ultimate fat loss guide in the description of this video. It teaches you the mindset that you need to have to start to lose some fat, as well as practical strategies and high protein recipes for every single meal of the day. And that brings me to the second mistake that I've made as a natural lifter, and that's simply that I was just doing way too much volume. Okay guys, guilty as charged. I used to be the more is more guy. I was doing low bar back squats like a powerlifter 3 times a week, looking to get as strong as I possibly could. Pushing weight, chasing PRs, feeling strong, until I didn't feel so strong. About 3 years into my lifting journey, I had a pretty horrific injury. I was doing my heavy back squats as normal and something felt really, really wrong in my hips. It resulted in a gluteal tendinopathy, which is a horrific injury, which has caused me pain ever since. It's still something I deal with on and off to this day. This injury has lingered for years. I've seen 2 sports medicine doctors, I've seen 2 physiotherapists, only for them to not be of that much help. The only thing that helped with this injury was reducing my training volume massively. Guys, when it comes to resistance training, we have 3 levers to pull on: frequency, volume, and intensity. Frequency is the amount of workouts you do per week. Volume is the amount of overall work you do in those workouts. And intensity is how difficult is the work that you do. I recommend you only choose 2 of these 3. If you go often and do a lot of volume, you can't train that hard. If your frequency is high and your volume is high, your intensity needs to come down. If your volume is high and your frequency is low, your intensity needs to be very high. And if your frequency is high but your volume is low, then again, you need to have high intensity. What I've realized more and more is that how difficult and how high quality, the work that you do in the gym, is what matters the most for muscle building. It's about precision, it's about effort. It's not really about how much time you spend in the gym. These days, my workouts are short, intense, and effective. They're usually only about 12 sets per workout, sometimes up to 15 working sets, with usually only 2 working sets per exercise. And occasionally I'll do a third working set. So why 2 sets? In most lifting programs, you see 3 sets prescribed per exercise. So you might be asking, why 2 sets? Here's why. Set 1 is definitely the most beneficial for muscle growth. This is where the magic happens. Set 2 is also effective, and you probably need more than 1 set to maximize gains from a particular exercise. Set 3 has diminishing returns. You aren't building as much muscle on the 3rd set of a given exercise. And if your primary goal is muscle building, doing a 4th or 5th set is usually not worth your time. And when a guy who's been in the gym for 25 years tells you, bro, you just need to do 5 sets of 5, bro, 5 by 5. That's how you get your best gains. There's nothing special about a 5x5, it's just bro nonsense. And doing fewer sets means that you get more variety in terms of your training, and muscles tend to grow better when we hit them from multiple angles. So for instance, you might do an incline press for the upper pecs, a flat press for the sternal or middle part of the chest, dips again for the middle and lower part of the sternal head of the pecs, and some sort of chest fly or pec deck to finish off the chest. If you do just 2 sets of all of these, you could probably do all 4 of those exercises within the same session. For an example, in my current training split, I have a so-called torso day. This is where I train my chest and my back in the same workout. And this is what the workout looks like. Incline Smith machine bench press, weighted pull-ups, flat machine press, lat pull down, AD press, and a chest fly. That's 12 hard sets, 2 sets for every exercise, and it absolutely smokes my entire upper body. That's how I train now, and often the same sort of philosophy as how I like to program for my clients. Another tip that has been scientifically proven to help you build more muscle is if you leave a like on this video. And if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, you can check out the applications for my program in the description of this video. And that leads me to the 3rd and final mistake that I've made for years, and you can save yourself a lot of time if you skip this mistake. I was trying to progress my lifts too quickly. I'm sure you're starting to see a pattern that all 3 of these mistakes kind of affect one another. Wanting to do lifts that I wasn't suitable for, doing too much volume, and then trying to progress them too fast was just a perfect storm of too much fatigue, acute injury, and stalled progress. There's an old classic line that if you're not adding 5 pounds every week, then you're not truly progressing. And listen guys, progressive overload is a very real thing. You do want the general trend of your volume and your strength to be going up over time. But the add 5 pounds every week forever mindset, if this worked, I'd be benching 1,500 pounds for reps by now. This just add 5 pounds bro mindset is kind of destroying your joints and probably not helping you build your muscles. The problem with using absolute load on the bar is the only measure of progress is that inevitably when we get to a weight that we can't handle that well, our form will start to break down. If your technique is not standardized, then the progression doesn't count. The only way that you know it's true progressive overload is if you're able to add a little bit of weight or add a few reps to your sets while maintaining the same form as you did last week. This is where filming yourself in the gym definitely comes in clutch. Often our lifting is not as good as we think it is. My clients, when they join my program, often tell me that the first few weeks of the program are incredibly helpful for them because they're forced to film their training to send to me, and they notice that they're not lifting nearly as well as they thought they were, which is fine. The only way to get better is to know that there's some sort of problem. So my biggest takeaway from this mistake is progression is not just about weight. It's got more to do with quality. These days, I'll happily spend weeks adding a few reps here or a little bit of weight there. And this is especially true for isolation lifts like lateral raises and curls. It is totally reasonable to be stuck on the same weight of lateral raises for like 6 months. If you're adding a rep or 2 every week, that is phenomenal progress. And guys, you also don't need to PR with every workout. Fatigue is kind of a mysterious thing. It can be affected by yesterday's nutrition, today's nutrition, yesterday's sleep, your general stress levels. If you go into the gym and your performance is slightly worse than last week, but the set was still difficult and your form was still solid, you are still making gains. You don't need to set a personal best every single time you walk into the gym. The set just needs to be of a high enough quality and be difficult and close enough to failure for you to really feel the target muscle working. As long as the general trend of your lifts over time is improving, you're getting a little bit stronger, or you're adding a few more reps, then the training plan is working really well. After the beginner phase, that's just about the best possible progress you could hope for. So guys, let's recap the 3 biggest mistakes that I made. Believing the big 6 cult that there are must-do lifts, doing way too much volume, rip glute tendon, and trying to slap 5 pounds on the bar every week no matter what. And if you've made any of these mistakes, then welcome to the club. And now hopefully you know a little bit better, and now you can work smarter, train harder, and stay injury free. Alright guys, please subscribe to the channel if you found that video useful, and if you're interested in more videos, there is way more content about the nutrition around muscle building as well as the mindset and technique around muscle building too. And I recommend, if this is the first time you watch my channel, that you watch this video next, which teaches you how to crush the first 90 days of your fitness journey. I'll see you in that one.